All right, welcome to another edition of the Hardwood Huddle, playoff edition basketball, baby, in the NBA. I am your host from backsportspage.com. My name is Randy Zellea, and with me, as always, he is the basketball master. He is the Lord of the Courts. He is the man behind the microphone and the man behind the pen, and that man, his name is Bill Ingram. Mr. Ingram, playoff basketball at its finest. And I guess we have a lot to talk about, but maybe we should start the show with an apology.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't be a bad way to start.
Yeah, because I guess that we owe Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks an apology. Now, let's just go on and start this off by saying I do not like apologizing to the Knicks fans, Knicks players. They are my Achilles heel. I really just don't really care too much about the organization too much. I think they're poorly run. When they start banning beat writers from their own team, I think there's something wrong. But Bill and you and I sat on this show last year, and we said the Knicks are grossly overpaying for Jalen Brunson, and they're going to regret doing this, blah, blah, blah. And man, I feel like we both have egg on our face.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're right a lot of times, most of the time, it seems like, but every once in a while you get it wrong. And I, as someone who watched Jalen Brunson here in Dallas play with Luka Doncic, I fully expected that Spencer Dinwiddie would step in and fulfill a very similar kind of role. And that's not what happened. In fact, Jalen Brunson simply went out to the East Coast and turned the New York Knicks from sort of laughing stocks into contenders, from the team that collected every free agent forward they could find in the NBA to a team that looks like, hey, especially with Milwaukee on the ropes, they're as good as any team in the Eastern Conference. And that is the big ingredient, you have to admit. The only real major change that they made was Jalen Brunson. And so when the Knicks looked at him and said, that's our guy, he's proving them to be really smart in doing so, because here we go. The Knicks are ready to advance to the second round on the cusp, even as the top seeded Milwaukee Bucks are looking like they might fall. And so once that happens, the field is wide open, and there's no reason at this point to start doubting the New York Knicks. Hey, and especially consider that Brunson was injured for a stretch right down to the wire. And where would the Knicks be perhaps in the fourth seed if that hadn't happened? So, hey, kudos, hats off, credit where it's due. Jalen Brunson has been exactly what the New York Knicks needed.
Yeah, and now there was a lot of questions around the New York Knicks, not only about Julius Randle, but now about the money they're giving R.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett coming out of Duke University. Again, I'm one of those people where there's always going to be some sort of buyer's remorse, and you're always going to get questioned about what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. R.J. Barrett is turning out to be a guy who, maybe you want to have that one back. And do you think he's hit his plateau at this point?
Well, he had a big game last time out. I mean, you're paying the guy, he's going to make almost $30 million before his contract is up. But at the same time, you have to consider that this is the calculus that's always involved in the NBA. So you have a player who is vital to your team, or you see perhaps growing into even a more important role, being vital to your team. And if you let him walk, you have to consider, who do you bring in to replace him and how much does that cost? Or can you even get that player? And that's the situation. Hey, the Dallas Mavericks are a perfect example. They never get key free agents. So in the case of Jalen Brunson, if you're the Mavericks, who you're not going to get a free agent for whatever reason, whether it's Mark Cuban or whatever it is, they've never been a team that was able to draw the big name free agents at the right time. So you have to pay whatever it costs to keep your guys. This is the small market. This is why Jason Collins, was overpaid to be with Atlanta. When you're a team that doesn't draw free agents, you got to pay what it costs. So if you look at R.J. Barrett and you say that he's a vital piece of your team, and you got to pay what it costs to keep him versus not having so much luck in free agency, then you pay what you pay. And, at this point, it's still a question mark. You'd hate to let him walk. And then 2 or 3 years from now, he becomes an all-star caliber talent, which is not completely out of the question. And then you're going, no, like the Mavericks are doing with Brunson. Like, man, we should have kept him. So, there are a lot of really bad contracts signed in the NBA. There are a lot of really bad trades that are made. But when it comes to young players who are still kind of on the upside, and you're trying to guess, as you and I have talked about many times, with players coming in younger and younger, that guessing game gets to be very expensive, and you just hope you're right. And I think the Knicks are still hoping they're right about R.J. Barrett.
We'll see. I think the problem with R.J. Barrett also is they're trying to groom him to be a number one guy when the number one guy that they have right now doesn't want to sort of move over. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, he's not. I mean, there's certainly I don't see him as the number one guy. Brunson is number one. He's proven that. Again, all apologies to, but then I think Julius Randle has to be your number two. You've got your big man, you've got your small, you got your point guard, your floor leader. So if RJ Barrett were to evolve into the second best player on the team, that would be a pleasant development. He's not going to be number one.
Well, but then, let me ask you this question though: if you're sitting there saying that he's number one, but what about Julius? Julius. But what about Jalen Brunson? Jalen Brunson didn't even make the All-Star team this year.
Well, but what is that? The All-Star team is very political. The All-Star team has turned into a popularity contest because it's. I mean, what is it even anymore? It's a pickup game where somebody's going to just randomly pick the players they want to play with. That's not even giving you the respect of the full fan base that the way it used to be, where got people who really watched the game and really understood the game were, making those picks, and then the coaches were filling in the guys that were egregious oversights. And I think in this case, coaches would have filled in Jalen Brunson. I mean, come on. So I hate to, the more they change things, the further it gets away from, and yes, we're old school, and oh no, these young whippersnappers have to change things. But let's just be honest. The All-Star game has been diluted ever since they changed it from East versus West to just pick up ball. I don't even care about watching it anymore. So it's unfair, I think, saying Jalen Brunson wasn't an All-Star. Okay, but if it had been the old way, don't you think Jalen Brunson was at least All-Star team?
Not even a second guess. He's been going all year round and doing great for the Knicks all year round. Let's move on to some of the other playoff series and maybe one or two that have wrapped up. Listen, you and I discussed that Nets Sixers series. Let's get that out of the way. I question some of the decisions that Jacques Vaughn made. Let's just put it that way.
You think?
I didn't understand the doubling of Joel Embiid. I didn't understand not playing Cam Thomas. Yeah, I didn't understand the not playing of Cam Thomas. I just help me understand. Someone made a comment to me that the decision making may be coming from up above, but I don't know why they would do that. You understand this league. You've been around it for a while. Help, Bill. Help me. Help you.
help you. Help you. No, Santa Claus. Anyway, yes, of course. So you have a head coach who, when they tapped him to replace Steve Nash took a lot of heat because that very dysfunctional team that Sean Marks put together was dysfunctional to the surprise of apparently only Sean Marks. I don't know. And so now you fired Steve Nash. Maybe that would make a difference. That didn't make a difference. Then Kyrie wanted out. Then Kevin Durant wanted out. And Ben Simmons has forgotten what it means. He doesn't even know what the orange thing with the black stripes is. What is that? Why are you handing me? I don't want to hold this. You've had so many issues with this team. And I think what you have left is a collection of talent, very good talent. And we saw it. This group of talent was extremely competitive into the final minutes against a team that, in Philadelphia, they like to think of themselves as contenders. I'm not convinced of that because you have James Harden on the team. I think that makes you not a contender, regardless of who else is on the team. But Jacques Vaughn, okay, now here you go. You've got a lot of talent. You've got defense. You've got offense. You've got multiple players that can play at different positions. You've got a lot of versatility, which maybe not so much before with Kevin Durant, with the all-star group. You've got the star power, but not the depth. Now you've got depth, versatility, talent, and you've got a chance to mold that, and he didn't. And so I'm not one, as anyone who watches this podcast regularly, I don't blame the coach for things. That's not my knee jerk. I hate when a coach is fired for the incompetence of a front office. But I do think that in this situation with that collection of talent, if you had Rick Carlisle or Greg Popovich, I think they close out those first round games where they had a lead and should have held it, and then they just collapsed. So some of that is youth. Some of that is this group didn't go through the 82 game gauntlet together. Some of that is the inexperience of playing together. But some of that too is coaching, where again, you talk about some things like doubling Joel Embiid at the 3-point line. Look, Joel Embiid shooting a three is a win for the defense. Not only do you not want to double him, you want to invite him to shoot that and go prepare to rebound the ball. Maybe he hits it. He'll hit a few, but he's not going to hit the majority of them. And those kinds of coaching decisions are the things that make you think if it had been someone else, called maybe a Nick Nurse, since he's available, someone calling the shots down the stretch who had been in championship games, who knew what it meant to win championship games and close out games in the playoffs, might have made a difference for that squad.
Yeah, and not only that too, but like you just said it before, you had too many headaches with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and it's hard for a coach to navigate through all that.
Really,
because you're not understanding and being able to figure out who do you have game by game, but understanding too. Look, Kyrie is a handful. Okay, Kyrie, I just don't. I don't think there's any coach in this league that would have been able to handle all the day by day drama. And the amazing thing was, while they were still there, they were in it. They were in it. They were the number 2 team when healthy. That organization was the number 2 team, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the whole league.
Yep.
And for some reason, Kyrie was just like, yeah, I'm done.
It's because he did the equivalent of falling off the side of the Grand Canyon, and there was no reason. Kyrie should have been patient. KD was going to come back from injury, but this is Kyrie Irving. This is why, if it's my team, I don't take him. I'd rather have Spencer Dinwiddie 3 times over, than Kyrie Irving, because you get a guy that brings it every night. There's something about Kyrie Irving, with the exception of his early years in Cleveland. He's not been someone who helps his team win, no matter what his stats are. He doesn't help you win.
Yeah. No, and let's go back to some of the other series. Obviously, Philadelphia is contending for a championship. The Nets were a bunch of loose pieces. I hate to say it like that. The Nets were a bunch of loose pieces, and they were just not ready to compete. Mikal Bridges is a great number 2 piece. Cam Johnson is a number 3, number 4 piece. I'm hearing all this talk about Damian Lillard. I don't want Damian Lillard at this age on a team like this. I know you need a star, but I'm not ready to go that route.
He's at the wrong point of his career, number 1. Number 2, what is the deal with him not being able to play? And I know he gave an interview, sort of an exit interview at the end of the season, where he talked about when they shut him down. And he said, that wasn't my choice. That was the training staff. They're looking at these advanced stats and all these computer models and things that say, oh, he might get injured, so he's not going to play. I mean, you and I hate that.
Yeah. I heard that, and I'm just like, what are we doing?
Mr. Get up off the floor, from the stretcher and go play another 30 minutes and score another 40 points. I just don't buy that. Let guys determine what their bodies are saying. I hate this load management and the fact that you're not letting guys play who want to play. And is that the case? Would a different training staff, if you take Damian, this is the only hope. If you're acquiring Damian Lillard, the only hope is that the Nets training staff will take a different approach and let him actually play through some injuries. Because to this point, Portland has spent so much time with him not playing. They had great teams around him. They had teams around him that should have been in the NBA Finals, and we talked about it on this podcast over the years, where you've got center play, you've got Nurkic, you've got guys like Covington, you've got X factors, you've got McCollum, you've got incredible backcourt, and all of that. None of that worked. And at the heart of all that was Damian Lillard. He was the star player, and he puts up amazing numbers when he's healthy, but for some reason, they don't win. And that has to concern you. And if I'm a GM looking to give up what you have to give up to get a player like Damian Lillard and invest in that as your star player, you got a lot of really good young pieces. I think there's other directions you could go.
Yeah, and I also have to bring up the simple fact of Damian Lillard. Like, if Nurkic comes with the deal, and you're able to keep Claxton and Cam Thomas, and just have to give up that money and some of that equity, that's another story.
Done deal.
I think that's a done deal. Sign me up. Having Lillard and have Dinwiddie come off the bench, and you could,
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You get able to keep Cam Thomas as instant offense off the bench. I'm all for having that. If you're not
solves some very real problems immediately for the Brooklyn Nets. Damian Lillard, maybe, just depends. But Nurkic, no question, I'll take him any day.
It's funny. I looked at the Nets salary situation, and then we'll move on. But their biggest problem is Ben Simmons. That money,
of course, yeah. And who's going to take him? That's the thing.
No one's going to take him. That's
you
the
can
problem.
always find somebody to take a bad contract for a player who can play. But when you've got a guy who absolutely, for whatever reason, has decided he doesn't even recognize the sport anymore, who in their right mind takes on that contract for a guy that just is not going to play?
Nobody.
It's the worst contract in the league at this point.
Yeah. And there's a lot of bad contracts, by the way. There's a lot of bad contracts. For us to say that is the worst contract, that really says something. That says a lot. All right, so let's go around the playoffs. We'll go around the coaching carousel and everything else in a couple minutes. But let's go right into the series. Let's start in the Western Conference. Denver is going to close out Minnesota as we tape this. They're getting ready to play tonight. And look, one of the things I said before, and I was on a show earlier today, and someone said to me that they think I'm crazy that the league, the league doesn't look at what's sexy and what's going to sell on TV. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, are you kidding me? The league is running away from the Denver Nuggets. They do not want Denver in the NBA Finals. It is just not
what they want. They want LeBron James in the NBA Finals.
They want the Lakers and the Celtics in the NBA Finals.
Absolutely. That's the wet dream of Adam Silver.
Yes. That's exactly what they want right now. That is their dream. That is the situation that they are looking for. And I can't disagree with it. Can't disagree with them more. I don't want that matchup because it's not going to end up pretty well for the Boston Celtics. And I can tell you don't want LeBron having another championship. So, so with that being said, though, Denver, I think, is the most complete team. I think as far as having guys who understand their roles, they share the ball. Their superstar doesn't behave like a superstar. Their MVP is a guy who just goes out there and plays, and it's something to be you look at and you just love it.
He's a guy who's doing the right play. He's
right, exactly.
Time to score. He's going to pass. He's always going to rebound. He's going to play defense. I mean, he's the back-to-back MVP, really 3-time, although politically it won't go to him 3 times. The same reason David Robinson got it in '95, even though Hakeem Olajuwon was the real MVP. It's political. We want to spread the love around. I'm sure it's Joel Embiid. But the real MVP of the league, let's just be honest, it's Jokic again, because he's astounding every night. He can dominate with 15 points. He can dominate with 40. He's going to give you a triple-double. He's going to dominate with his passing every night. He's going to rebound. He does all the little things to help your team win. And when you've got that, they've put the perfect team around him. I mean, the front office has done an amazing job. When you look top to bottom, there's no more complete team in the NBA than the Denver Nuggets. And it's why they've been the best team in the league all season. But like you said, the league doesn't want them there. That does play a factor when it comes to tough playoff series.
And I'm getting tired of these people sitting there saying, well, the league doesn't really look at it like that. Yes, they do.
NBA's a bit. How many times a year do you hear a player on a team say, The NBA is a business. They all understand it. We understand it. The media understands it. It's a business first. Absolutely.
Yeah. Minnesota, you and I have discussed it. I think it's time they're going to make a decision between the Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns combo. Did not work
Shocking.
for whatever reasons.
Well,
I know this is
two big guys, and that was so 80s, 90s even, but not 2020s. That doesn't work. They swarm the big guys, and it creates turnovers. And unfortunately, Karl Anthony Towns, first of all, he has the best trade value. He puts the best numbers up. But when it comes down to winning games, when you're not acting stupid, which Rudy Gobert, he does stupid things. But he's also one hell of a defender, and he too does the little things that help you win games. Karl Anthony Towns will score, he'll get rebounds, but I've never seen that I can remember a player who could put up such impressive stats and still be minus in the plus minus. That right there, they've got the other pieces around him. If they could move him for two quality pieces, the Timberwolves are ready to compete for a title around Rudy Gobert and the rest of the team that they have around him. But Edwards is, he's your alpha. I mean, he's learned how to call out other players for the things that he perceives. I think at All-Star break, he made the point about load management being such a crock. And he was actually, and he's just tough as nails. And I think he's a guy I want to build around. And Rudy Gobert, hey, defense and rebounding are still, I don't care, it's 2023. It's not a big man's league anymore, but you still need those things, and he does it. So if you could trade Karl Anthony Towns and his rebounds and his points and get you a couple of guys who contribute in smaller ways, Minnesota's looking great next season.
I agree. I also think the one thing we also forgot about Minnesota this year was, Towns was out for majority of it, and he's still working himself back into shape.
Yeah,
but it's too little, too late. I think that
for real.
I don't know. Something just didn't click with them. I don't want to blame the whole thing on injuries because it's silly to do that.
The other thing that really helped them, to be honest, was you had a lot of weird stuff. I mean, D'Angelo Russell has a lot of weird witchcraft, crazy, like bizarre things. You traded him. You brought in Mike Conley. And Mike Conley is the consummate professional, the consummate doctor. No bullshit, no witchcraft, no chicken feet, no whatever, blah, blah, blah. No, we can't have mirrors. Like, he comes in, he's the voice of reason. He can keep guys under control. He can keep guys focused, and he's just an incredible human being as well.
I love the witchcraft stuff. I'm sorry.
Well, okay, but I don't want to know my team. It's fun to watch and be like, but not from your starting point guard. And when you look at the difference between the Timberwolves pre-trade and post-trade, Conley really helped them start to put some things together. And I think a full season with him at point guard, even at his age, he showed he's still got plenty of game left. And I would look forward to seeing him with Edwards and Gobert. I think you've got a core unit that could really do something much more meaningful next season than they've been able to do in the short period of time this season.
The next series I got to bring up is one that I was kicking and screaming with earlier today, was the Phoenix Suns and Los Angeles Clippers series. First off, if Kawhi Leonard is playing, which, if Kawhi Leonard was playing,
that's all you have to say. That's the story of the Los Angeles Clippers. If Kawhi Leonard was playing,
I think if he was playing, this series would be over and the Clippers would have won. They just didn't do it.
Well, because they're deeper. Phoenix gave up too much. Hey, I get the Kevin Durant trade. You're swinging for the fences. You felt like you needed to. You didn't need to, but they did. I think Mikal Bridges gives. But what do you do? You go out and
there's nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do with that. I mean, like, it's a gamble. That's the win now gamble for Chris Paul. I feel that's why that's why they made the deal. They made the deal for Chris Paul. They said,
frankly, I thought they had maybe even a better chance at winning it before that. But I mean, they did what they did. Kevin Durant's an amazing player if he can stay healthy. Which if he can stay healthy for the entire playoff run, that'll take a miracle. But that being said, Russell Westbrook has been. He's been Russell Westbrook. He's been amazing. Norman Powell has shown why he has been such a successful player over the years in the league. And yeah, if Kawhi was healthy, I don't think Phoenix gets out of this series, but he's not. And so I think, goodbye Clippers. It's too bad. But at least Westbrook got to show that he's still Russell Westbrook. That's the consolation prize, I think, for the Clippers.
Yeah. And I think he'll get a contract with them again for next year. Right?
I mean, come on. Get rid of Paul George, get rid of Kawhi, but keep Russell Westbrook.
The other thing too with Phoenix is 3 years from now, man, that fan base is gonna be so upset. Like where Devin Booker is gonna be the real question, because Devin Booker's not gonna want to hang around when he sees Kevin Durant and Chris Paul both sitting there walking around with walkers in the in that locker room.
That's the unfortunate trade-off, right? Devin Booker is still a young player, and they've got some other young pieces, but they traded away a lot of their youth and a lot of their core future when they made that deal. And so Sean Marks, hey, full credit to you for pulling that off. But Chris Paul, does he make it through another full season? Does Kevin Durant make it through another full season? I think both of those things are really valid questions to ask. And if they don't win the championship this year, which I think that's a tall order, then what was it really about? I know there's talk of Kyrie Irving wanting to reunite with KD in Phoenix. Then why didn't you just stay with him in Brooklyn? But I mean, whatever. Even if you do that, I still don't know that Phoenix is a contender next season. It's just a lot of questionable decisions are made. I know how you justify it with the win now mentality, but when you had a team that was set to win, perhaps for the next 3 to 5 years, man, if they don't win the championship this year, it's a tough sell.
Well, not only that, but I remember Kyrie said in one of his first interviews with Dallas, saying, "Yeah, with KD going over to Phoenix, it'd be great because I get to see him a little more." Well, how much more are you going to see him? You're supposed to be on the same team in the same locker room. It's like, don't give Kyrie a microphone. Bad things will happen. No. He's only going to hurt himself and everybody else around him.
And don't give him a big contract either while you're at
it. Hashtag truth. Hashtag truth. Hey, that Memphis Grizzly Los Angeles Lakers series, I never seen a team shoot themselves in the foot more than the Memphis Grizzlies have this year. They went from lovable underdogs to a team you just say, I can't wait for them to be done. Therefore they can shut up, because it seems like their team just doesn't shut up, and it's a bad effect for them.
The Memphis Grizzlies have gone from one of the young darlings of the league, a team that I loved. I mean, when that group, you love to see a young group put it together and they got the potential to be good together for a long time. And then they turn themselves into villains very quickly. Ja Morant with his off the court stuff, and Dylan Brooks. I mean, he's turned LeBron into a hero, and for me, that was a real stretch. Like, I never saw LeBron. But anyway, yeah. So now we're all rooting against Memphis after a year ago we were all rooting for Memphis. What a year it's been for them. And Dylan Brooks in particular, when you say, I just want to see LeBron James, I'm sorry, just don't, shut up. Yeah. Shut up. LeBron James is one of the successful playoff performers in the history of the NBA. Just shut up. And now LeBron, to his credit, saying nothing, leaving it all on the floor with his game, which I really respect, because that's not the way he used to be. It shows a lot of maturity on his part to just go out and beat the crap out of them and take the little dirty plays and the blah, 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 and send them home. And that's what we're about to see. The 7th seed, granted, as we mentioned in the opening, Pelinka, it's not the same team. Pelinka has made some great moves, and they've all panned out really well. But the 7th seed is going to knock out the 2nd seed, and it's going to be one that we all cheer at this point because we're tired of Dylan Brooks' mouth.
Quick question for you about LeBron James. I had made the argument earlier in the day that LeBron, his first 2 championships with the Miami Heat, I don't want to say you put an asterisk by them because it was the big 3, but it wasn't LeBron's team. LeBron took that next level to legendary status when he did it with Cleveland.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair assessment because you look at it because the conversation came back. I think you and I had this discussion too. When LeBron, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, and that generation of of stars, when they step away, who's the face of the league? And it took LeBron a while. It was LeBron for a long time, but it took him a while to really get into that level to be the face of the league.
Yep.
Kobe never really had that opportunity to be the face of the league because he was on the West Coast, and the East Coast audience never got to see him. And that's a majority of the NBA audience is on the East Coast in the Central Time Zone. And when you're playing at 10:30 at night Eastern Time, you're just not getting a lot of play. Then Jordan came back, played with the Wizards. We all saw how well that worked out. And when he got done with that, LeBron was here, so it felt like LeBron made the transition to Jordan. I mean, Jordan made the transition to LeBron. I'm sorry.
I still think Kobe was the face of the league for a while. I mean, I was never a Lakers fan. I became a Kobe fan through getting to know him and interviewing him and talking to him. He made me a fan of him as a player. I was never a Lakers fan, but so I will say to that end, I feel like Kobe was the face of the league for a while. But I get where you're going. LeBron is now, and is Dylan Brooks perhaps ready to take that mantle on? Is Joel Embiid, Giannis? I mean, there are some very good younger players, but do they command the same kind of cachet that certainly Michael did, Akeem did, Jordan, Bird, Magic, Kareem, those guys? It remains to be seen who's going to step into that.
Yeah. Let's finish up the Western Conference here. I think we both agree that Phoenix is going to knock out the Clippers, and we'll move on from that. Obviously, the Lakers are going to move on from the Memphis Grizzlies. It's just a matter of time now. And Denver knocking out Minnesota. Look, that Warriors-Sacramento series, we both said that was going to be the series maybe of the whole playoffs, and it has not disappointed.
Nope.
Klay Thompson has slowly put himself in as that third guy behind Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry. That's a dangerous 1-2-3 punch, no pun intended, or 1-2-3 kick if you're Draymond. And and look, at the end of the day, I think obviously now the injury to De'Aaron Fox is gonna, put this one to bed. Man, I don't count out the Warriors. They haven't been healthy all year. They're a great home team. And if they make it past Sacramento and the Lakers get it past Grizzlies, the Warriors are the home team in that series, and they don't lose at home.
No. And they have the answer for LeBron. They have the answer at point guard. The Lakers don't have answers for Golden State. The thing I will say about Sacramento is you had the consummate example of a head coach making the entire difference for a team going from lottery fodder for years to finally putting things together. And it's because Mike Brown came in, and he, of course, it didn't hurt that he studied under Steve Kerr for a long time, but he came in and established a culture first. And in the NBA, if you don't put culture first, you're not going to win. And the Sacramento Kings had all the pieces, the youth, all the right complementary guys to go together. And Mike Brown stepped in. I don't think anybody else should even get a single vote for Coach of the Year. It's unanimous Mike Brown, because he established a culture. That team responded, and oh man, they've been exciting to watch. It will suck if De'Aaron Fox's finger keeps him from going, and that's the reason Sacramento. I mean, there's nothing I hate like having injuries determine the outcome of a series. No matter what the team is, no matter who's injured, even the Clippers. Even though I'm not a fan of the Clippers, I'm not a fan of Kawhi, blah, blah, blah. I hate to see an injury be the determining factor in a playoff series. And if that's what happens to Sacramento, it's soul crushing to me to see that happen. Even though I love the Warriors, Steph Curry, Klay, this is an incredible dynasty that you hate to see die. But man, if it's injuries that take out Sacramento, that's devastating. Devastating.
Well, you know what? we'll discuss that in a second with the Milwaukee Bucks. With that being said, man, oh man, oh man, oh man. All right, let's go to the East. We already talked about Philadelphia and Brooklyn. Brooklyn got sent home. I was there for Game 3. I was not happy with what I saw from both teams. James Harden, I gotta tell you, I stole your line when I was watching the game, and I yelled out loud. I'm like, "Don't worry about James Harden playing defense. He invented social distancing before it was a COVID thing." And so people looked at me. They're like, "Wow, yeah, it's sort of true." I'm like, "Yeah, because Harden doesn't play defense." Look, the Sixers are built for now. The Sixers are built for now, and when they play Boston, because Boston's going to knock out Atlanta tonight, as we record this, I got to tell you, I think that might be the winner of that series goes to the NBA Finals from the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think so, because the Knicks have a lot of youth that hasn't. Again, we talk about proving yourself in the postseason, and the Knicks have not done that. And I mean, if Miami is able to knock off Milwaukee, what a tremendous gift to Boston that will be, because obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the conference, maybe the best player in the NBA, and they've been. Brooke Lopez has been beyond anything.
He's been lights out. Brooke, you can't he reestablished himself as one of the top centers in the NBA during this series.
It's astounding that he's done that, and of course, Chris Middleton is maybe one of the most underrated players in the league. They've been able to win even when Giannis is out. But this time, Giannis being out, they've not been able to figure it out. Then he comes back, the triple-double. The Heat still find a way in overtime. Jimmy Butler digs deep. Even Kyle Lowry has been a contributor in the series, which I didn't expect. A lot of different guys are stepping up. Credit Spoelstra for putting guys in the situation to win it. If Milwaukee's out, man, what a golden opportunity for Boston or as you mentioned, Philadelphia. But I got to go Boston all the way. I just think if Milwaukee's out, I don't know who beats Boston.
Well, not only that, but look, and before we start saying that Milwaukee is this or that, if there's any team right now that can come back from 3-1, it's Milwaukee, because they're lucky enough to have 2 out of the next 3 at home.
Mm-hmm.
So if Miami doesn't put the foot on the throat in Milwaukee and or in Miami, if we go to Game 7, I do not like Miami's chances.
So don't give Giannis a chance to get his feet back under him for sure.
Yeah. So if I'm Miami, I go in there Milwaukee and I go for the knockout punch immediately. You would prefer not going back to Miami for a Game 6.
For sure.
And it's funny. Before we jump into that Knicks Cavs series a little bit more, we got to talk about the Atlanta Hawks situation with Trae Young. It seems more and more that one of those two are going, Murray or Young, and I don't know if from a PR standpoint you can let go of Trae Young, because he seems to be the popular guy in Atlanta. Fans still love him. Dejounte Murray feels like he's the outsider coming in, even though he's playing better than Trae.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a GM, what do you do in that situation?
If you're a fan of the Atlanta Hawks and you've watched Trae Young do what he does for the past 5 seasons, aren't you at a point where you go, "That's nice, Trae. Thank you. How about if we win some games? How about if we build a team that the team is a unified force, and we're not blaming coaches. Nate McMillan got fired. Did that really help anything? No, not at all. Are we surprised? No. Nate McMillan's a great coach. It was just that, as the coach, you are sometimes a victim of what the front office has handed you, and that was Nate McMillan. I think Dejounte Murray, of course, coming up under Popovich, I'm always happy to give a Popovich guy the ball and say, "Lead us, young man." But I think some of it too comes up to trade value, because if you want to trade a huge contract, I mean, Trae Young, you're a guy who hasn't proven you can win. Who's looking at him and thinking, "Wow, he's our answer of getting to the next level"?
Sean Marks, don't look at him. Sean Marks, don't even look at him. No, Sean Marks, don't even look at him. No.
Sean Marks, maybe. And you could actually, if you're Sean Marks, you could send some very nice pieces to Atlanta to help them get into contention. But that's not what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no. If anything, if I'm Brooklyn, I'm sitting there saying, "Hey, Devontae Murray, come on down. That's right. You're going to come here."
DeJounte Murray, yeah. I mean,
But there's something going on there though, because Pop gave up on Murray real quick.
I have been waiting for that story to surface because they built him. They lost a lot of games to help him, to give him minutes, to let him make his mistakes. He was starting to round into form, and then all of a sudden they traded him. It was like, wait a minute, isn't he sort of?
And not only did not only did they trade him, but they traded him for nothing.
Nothing. You gave him away. Why? There has to be a there. But you know that's not going to come out of San Antonio. I was waiting for DeJounte Murray to let it slip after game 56 of a loss, and he's frustrated, and he just lets it slip. Well, like in San Antonio, where blah, 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 blah. Never did.
Well, yeah. It's like now, like, it's funny you say that because now that the Nets season was over, Bridges and Cam Johnson met with the media, and Bridges was just like, now that I'm looking back, like now that I can say this, I was really upset that they moved me. Yeah. I was really, really, really upset that they moved me, and I'm not happy, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, that's great that you're not happy. In 3 years when your contract is up, you have a choice. You have a choice. And the next
Murray tomorrow when they're doing exit, like, I don't know, but that's weird. Something's weird there. But his numbers speak for themselves. You've got a team that lacked culture, and Trae Young was supposed to help build that culture, kind of like Dallas. Everybody thought the Mavericks were the big winners in the Luka Trae choice, but Luka hasn't had any more success building a culture in Dallas than Trae has in Atlanta. So I don't know that that's a valid criticism of Trae, really. So both teams are a mess right now. At least Atlanta made the playoffs, which Dallas, of course, their front office is just awful. Wrong pieces, wrong everything. That's
and not only that, 9-19 since the Kyrie trade for Dallas.
Yep.
Enough said there. Hey, listen, Cleveland's going through some growing pains. They need to have a vet. They need a veteran in there with them because I feel like their inexperience hurt them against the Knicks in this series.
Also, Donovan Mitchell. There are times where I'm just sure he's Batman. There are times where he is Mr. Clutch, Mr. Game on the line, give me the ball, let me hit the dagger. And there are games where he just is not that player at all. And for Cleveland to work, they really need him to be that player because Darius Garland's not going to be that player. Evan Mobley's not going to be that player. If Damian Mitchell is that player, they're a complete team, ready to compete for a championship. But if he's not, and we're getting to the point where, hey, he was that guy sometimes for Utah, but not always. And now he's that guy sometimes for Cleveland, but not always. Maybe he's just not going to be that guy. And if he's not, then, man, that's tough for Cleveland. That's tough. Does a Draymond Green, does somebody come in and kick his butt a little bit in practice and instill that, push him to that next level? A veteran, like you said, maybe. It's a possibility. But if not, man, there's so many good teams in the NBA that are not great. And that could be where Cleveland finds themselves next year. Good team. Win a lot of big games, a lot of tough games. But when it comes down to winning time, they don't get it done. That falls on your star. And is Mitchell that guy?
Yeah, it's very, very true. Now, real quick, let's go around the rest of the news and notes around the NBA. The Magic seem to have another Rookie of the Year. Too bad some of that stuff doesn't translate to winning. What do you think?
Hey, they looked good at times. They looked really good at times. Even in losses, they started to look good.
Can I tell you, I felt that Orlando this year wasn't losing, they were learning.
Yeah.
And I think that next year, the league better watch out because the Orlando Magic will be back in the playoffs.
I absolutely agree. Yep.
I had something for you, but I also want to save that till the end because it'll make me happy to hear your thoughts on it. We were talking about the coaches. What do you think about the Rockets hire of Udaka? Should they hide? Should they tell the office staff to stay, all the ladies in the office to stay away from his office, or what's? Uh,
They should do that. Yes. First of all, keep all your wives away from the coach's office. But that aside, I think it's great. You needed somebody with championship experience. You needed somebody with a defensive mindset. You've got somebody who also the school of Greg Popovich, both as a player and as an assistant coach. And there's a defensive mindset that will stem from that. That is, hey, Jalen Green. I hope Kevin Porter Jr. is not running the point. I really hope that's Scoot Henderson next year. But if it's still KPJ and you've got a skinny 7-footer, I don't care how talented he is. I just have no faith in uber tall, uber skinny 7-footers. I don't, no matter what their skill sets are. But if it's still KPJ, you've got to have somebody put some really big Nikes up some butts to get them playing defense, to get them moving the ball. You have to have a team concept. Steven Silas had a team concept and the team didn't follow it. And Silas was continually frustrated. You just saw it after games. We called this play and they did that instead. Why? Apparently they're not getting enough Nikes stuck far enough up their butts, or they would have done what you told them to do. So it's time to kick some butts. And I think Ime Udoka is the kind of person, the kind of coach who will do that. And you'll have a coaching staff around him who will emphasize that too. And a young team like Houston with as much talent as they have, that's what they need.
Where do you think Nick Nurse ends up?
If I'm Nick Nurse, the first thing I want to see is who else gets fired. Because you're going to have, if I'm Nick Nurse, I'm like, is Jacques Vaughn getting fired? Because if Jacques Vaughn is getting fired, sign me up. I got young players, got cap space. I can acquire a superstar. I've got everything I need in front of me. That's my situation if I'm Nick Nurse. But
I think he can end up. He needs to be with a veteran team. That's where he needs to be. He needs to have guys who are like I look at.
But you're going to, if you're Brooklyn, you're going to add a veteran. There's no question. You're going to add.
Oh yeah, no. I think look, one of the things the Nets had, I think 8 guys who weren't drafted on their team this year, and guys played well. Guys played very, very well. One last thing I heard, like I said, from a Nets perspective, I heard a lot of things through the grapevine, and I want to end it on this. I heard a rumor that Marks has making a phone call over to Mitch Kupchak over with the Hornets about the availability of LaMelo Ball. Now, from a Brooklyn standpoint, that's exactly what they need. They need to have a young player who's has a cult following from the young fan base. Because if you look all around these kids playing basketball on the court, they're all wearing LaMelos. They're all wearing it. You put him in a big market like Brooklyn, and the kid can play, and you put some good players at him, you can't tell me that's not a dangerous team.
So there you go. He played 36 games this season, I think, and and the name Ball just says injury to me. I mean, that's just fair or not. I'm wondering about that factor right there. If he had been healthier this year, how much better would Charlotte have been? And so while his skill set, no question. But you don't want to have that simply a guy who's not durable. And so he struggled a lot his rookie year. Let's see, he played 51 games as a rookie. Last year he played 75, but then this year 36. So are we durable? Can we make it through an NBA season? No matter how talented you are, if you can't play, you're hurting your team. So, yeah, if you tell me he's going to play 75 games or even 70-plus games next season, absolutely. Great. Wow. What are the Hornets doing? You know what? The Hornets are, granted, they had crippling injuries and, of course, losing their bridges to the off-court.
Shenanigans.
So there's been a lot of talent there that hasn't had a chance to come to fruition. But are they ready to give up on that, or are they ready, or are they still hoping they're going to get everybody back and put something together? That's a good question for Sean Marks to ask Michael Jordan or his guys.
Yeah. I can't agree with you more on that one. The one thing I can tell you that LaMelo Ball, I was just reading some articles on him earlier this week, is he doesn't know what his future is bringing. But Steve Clifford came out and honestly just said, "You guys want this kid here? We got to start winning some games."
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, Bill, very interested to see where the highlights, but very interested to see what happens tonight. Some of these closeout games. Right now, Boston and Atlanta are in the middle of their game 5, and Atlanta's hanging with them. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to doing this a little bit more next week. Hopefully, some more coaches will get fired, so some news will come out. I don't want anybody to get fired, though. I'm just saying. But with that being said, that's Bill Ingram from backsportspage.com. I'm Randy Zellea. We'll see you next time here on the Hardwood Huddle.